Right, gents, we've just filmed Teammates, but now we're going to do the Q&A. Plenty of fans send questions, but Gaffer, probably we haven't really sat down. I know we speak after every match and before a match, but had an evaluation of the season. How important is it probably to all of you as a club that we constantly inform our fans and really have this personal level and let them know what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I suppose in normal circumstances is easier to do because we'd see people. So if we were at a game, after a game, it might be having a drink in the bar, it might be walking out to your car, it might be before the game, talking to the opportunity to speak to supporters. No one's had the opportunity to do that this year, so it does become more difficult. But a football club, wherever you're at, is made up of all the most important people involved in it. Normally is going to be the supporters, so to keep them in the picture as to what's going on is massively important.
Joe and Jake have joined you to help with this Q&A. Is that just to help you get through the questions, or
just in case I get stuck? Or there's a less political answer that I might not want to give, I'll throw it to my left or my right.
Alright, we're going with the questions. We're on Twitter first. Question from Jack Wheelhouse. He says, how has the mindset of the club changed since you've all come in? There seems to be a great hunger to succeed and never say die attitude, like shown against Yeovil last week, and a united front between the players and staff.
It's hard to say that wasn't the case before we came in, and I don't think that was the case. Sometimes that's shown in or comes out in different ways. Again, I suppose within that, the challenging part comes when it's easy to say there's that spirit and there's that fight. It's easy to battle when you're winning games. Hopefully what we have done, and towards the back end of last season, we've shown that, again, that's great. If we do that, it helps us to win games, but it's not the be-all and end-all. We all want to win, we all hate losing, but it's okay to lose if you've done everything you can, you control what you control. The club's changed massively in 12 months, and probably if you spoke to the chairman, it would have been something that he'd like to, or a position he'd like to have been in a lot sooner. It's almost gone back to the bare bones, and we've had to build from scratch, and it's important now that there's an infrastructure put in place, and it's being put in place that helps us to keep moving forward and keep progressing.
Just another question here from Martin Lacey. You have a number of important players on loan at the club. Are you able to tell us anything about the plans to replace or necessary, or to keep them, let's say, try and get them permanent or anything, or just a general overall review of our loan lads?
Like I say, for me, the loan market's been massively important at all the clubs I've been at. It was important back end of last year when we came in, and it was always going to be important this year because the budget was significantly reduced from where we were at. So in order to protect that budget, the loan players you get in are vital, because, again, without going into too much detail, we're paying significantly less in some instances, or most instances, maybe as low as 20% of players' wages and salary in order to get them with us. Now, granted, within that, I think it's important you get the right loan players in. For some, it's first loans, so there's risks involved. So Cass is his first loan. As a young player coming into men's football, there's always a chance that it doesn't go right. There's always the risks involved in that.
That's what I was just about to say. How much individually do you work with these lads in terms of obviously coming from higher leagues to like kind of adapt them to? It's a very different game in the National League.
Yeah, they've got to learn quick, haven't they, and adapt. Like I say, with Cass, it's his first one, so it's massive for him, and it is a little bit of a gamble. And you work with them every day, and individually at the end they always want to do stuff. But like Cass, they've come from them clubs and he's got a great attitude, wants to learn, and gives everything in training, which can make it a little bit easy for him.
He's the prime example of, I suppose, how young players' loans work, because again, came in, you'll play your first 8 to 10 games and you almost ride the crest of a wave, and we were winning games. He'll be the first to admit, before he got his injury, he had two poor games, and he was really disappointed with the games he had. That's going to happen. You're going to get that, and the break for him, picking up a niggle, probably came at the right time, which has allowed him to sort of play a lot of games in a short space of time, do really, really well, have a couple of blips, come out the team, watch a few games, reflect on what he's done, and then all of a sudden come back into it. Granted, in a different position in terms of him going back in, but he's gone again, and that's how not just loans will work. That's how games will work with young players. You've got to find your feet and find your not so much find your level, find what the requirements are in order to for you to improve and for the team to win.
Question from Jeff 𝙢𝙖𝙣. I can imagine this is a very serious question. How is Champions League football a real possibility in the next 6 years?
It is for Jake on the game on Football Manager and things that he plays, but that's about it. Listen, I think we know where we're at. I don't know what Champions League, Football League would be nice, and like I say in the start, and aspirations can change from there.
Champions League night at the Vic.
Sure, Real would fancy it.
Yeah, it would be an eye opener for them certainly.
Another question on Twitter. You said after the Wrexham game that this is at the moment probably the strongest squad that we've had, and probably since you became manager here. Is there any areas though that you'd still like to strengthen in terms of when you start looking towards the end of the season, or maybe right now?
It's hard because I suppose you could be really sort of picky and go, well, you'd love that and you'd love that. I think we're certainly not in any panic to get anyone in. The one area we potentially don't have cover for is left back, left wing back. We don't have many naturally left-sided players. I think we've got John O'Fergie and Moles are the three. We're playing at the minute with a back three. We've got a spare centre back. Maybe you'd look for. I mean, Cass can do jobs in different positions. You'd maybe another centre back. But what you have to look at is, even if you go in further around the pitch, bringing another player in may stop the progression of other players. So we could bring in another forward player and sort of look at it and go, well, maybe Joe's not quite up to it, but he is. So why would we halt his progress and put another rung on a ladder that he's got to get above when he's doing great himself?
Jake, Joe, has he ever asked you to fill in, Gaffer, when needed?
Yeah, we've played a couple of MB11s, haven't we?
Yeah.
But it's difficult when you bring more and more players in, because we have got a decent sized squad and we've only got 5 subs. And it's the players that are out of them, keeping them happy, and the squad together is really good at the moment, and bringing more in, you're just pushing people further and further away, which you just mentioned, so it can be difficult. But I'm sure if the right player come along, then you make that extra effort. Sure.
It's not mentioned on here, but I've seen it throughout the season. Can you confirm whether Anthony Sweeney was registered as a player at the beginning of the season? So many people are saying, if we get, obviously I know some competitions were cancelled this year, but would Sweeney's have featured?
No, Sweeney's wasn't registered. I'm sure Sweeney's could still have a go, like.
Joined in a few runs and he's still got to be.
Yeah,
there, hasn't he?
yeah. He's still young, isn't he? I'm pretty sure if you asked him, he wouldn't fancy it. Like he wouldn't mind a job as a number 10. That means you do nothing out of possession, but just get himself in the box like he did when he was playing. I'm sure if you asked him, he'd be the first to admit that in his eyes his playing days are well and truly done.
Question from Luke Bell. A question for all is really, what's your favourite game from being a part of Hartlepool United? Obviously it's been very different without fans and all sorts.
For me, it was one of the first games when I got here was the Yeovil away. It was a great performance, and went behind early as well, didn't we? And played some great football that night, some great goals, and that was one for me.
Yeovil at home for me, last minute winners, always nice to see. That one coming from behind again, it was made of that record we had, and lads showed a bit about them there to go and get the win last minute.
I'd probably go two of the games. Last year it's different because you can pick things out this year, but ultimately things this year without crowds are not the same. Probably you look back to Notts County last year, Stockport last year here. Those games where I mean, probably one of our best performance was Barrow here. When again we drew 2-2, but we thoroughly deserved to win the game. Them performances where you've got an atmosphere, you've got a big away following. It's a big game in terms of teams that were in around the playoffs or pushing to get in the playoffs. They were the ones for me. I think everyone wants to be involved in the big games, and with a big game comes a big away following and a big atmosphere.
Question from 𝙢𝙖𝙣𝙮 saying, how are we doing in comparison with your expectations of where we are on the table, and kind of what your thoughts were at the beginning of the season for everyone really?
I think you always hope that the things you'll put in place will give you the best chance. The start that we had further enhances that you're doing all right. We then have a bad run in terms of results, not so much performances. We then found a decent consistency. I think with where we are, it's difficult because what can you have a comparative to? You look at budget wise, we're definitely in the bottom half. So where's your reality? Where do you think that we need to finish? A part of that, you go, well, there's 23 teams in the league, halfway's 12. Even to get in the playoffs, you've only got to make up five places. So I think for everyone in the league, as much, I've said this before, people, as much as I think 90% of the teams at the start of the season would have targeted getting in the playoffs. But I think of that 90%, 75% of them would have been desperate to get to 50 points as quickly as possible, because the league can be anything. You can be up there competing one year and struggling the next year, just in terms of results. So to give ourselves a shot at getting the playoffs, if I was offered that now and I'd been offered at the start of the season, I would absolutely have taken it. Obviously, the further it was still half a season to go, and we're still in with a shout of doing better than that. But we want to finish as high up as we can. Certainly, in my opinion, these guys again will have their own thoughts on it. But if we can give ourselves some big games at the back end of the season, and that means the best way of doing that and the best chance we have of doing it is through the playoffs, then I'd absolutely take it.
Well, agree with that, gents?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there, in terms of when the lads look at their phones and see where we are in the league, is there a certain way you have to manage them in terms of probably not getting ahead of themselves with so many games to go?
Not really. They're all down to earth. The lads, they realise how much of the season's still to go. But like I already said, we've given ourselves a great chance. And again, 3 or 4 games, you can again move up there, or you can be straight back down again. It's so tight, isn't it? And the season's been so up and down for a lot of clubs, but we've sort of managed to stay in and around there, and long way that continue, really.
I think you have to think this year, above any year, the table will look different between Saturday and Tuesday because of the amount of games and the amount of games or the difference in the least amount of games to the most amount of games that have been played. I think it's FA Trophy this weekend as well, so there'll be a disparity there, and it's about taking advantage of those opportunities, because as much as we might say anything, and probably again speak from a personal perspective, don't look at the table. I haven't looked at the table, know where we are and around things. The players will look at it because they spend the majority of the time on their phones and looking at social media, and will love all the adulation, and will love all the praise that's being heaped on them, and that can only be, like I said, that can only be a positive. It's about using that positive as a motivation to keep us driving forward.